Sunday, December 8th, 2024, is a Credo Sunday at Red River Unitarian Universalist Church. This, I believe, 5 members will share their credo: Dan Althoff, Elbert Hill, Marla Loturco, Jana Norris, and Doug Strong. Welcome from Red River Unitarian Universalist. Thank you for joining us. The religion we practice in this church is centered in the here and now, rather than the hereafter. It is more of a thinking kind of religion than a believing kind. It is governed more by reason than by tradition, more concerned with the present than the past. It is concerned with getting the most out of life, with living wisely and well. A major aim for us is continually expanding our understanding of life and ourselves. This church is a community of people who share in the free and open search for a level of understanding that will enable us to be more fully and effectively alive. The church does not tell us what we must believe. It stimulates us to think. It supports us in our search. You are welcome to join us. Our centering value is love, with transformation, generosity, equity, interdependence, justice, and pluralism. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1,000th time on our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. As is our custom, if you'd like to come and light a candle for a joy, a challenge, or just to bring more light into this room, please do so while we sit in stillness, listening to the prelude. Please rise in body or spirit for our chalice lighting and spoken affirmation. Our chalice lighting this morning was written by Jennifer Grayson, called Drawn Together. We come together every week, bound not by creed, but by our mutual desire to please one God or many gods. Yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change the world. Join me as together remind ourselves of the affirmation that is a cornerstone of our free faith tradition. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in freedom, and to help one another. We light this peace candle to remind us of all the places in the world where there is no peace. Join me in the words now on the screen. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to love, from fear to trust. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. You may be seated. Our opening thought this morning was written by Gary Kowalski. It's not what you believe, but how. Babies don't believe anything. Babies aren't born Buddhists or Baptists or believers of any sort. But soon after we arrive in this world, we start to gather ideas. We pick up beliefs and ideas about people and animals and families. We collect ideas about stars and comets and how it all got started. We accumulate beliefs about good and bad, right and wrong, what's healthy and unhealthy, and what is important in life. All these beliefs, which we get from our parents and playmates, from the TV, from Sunday school, go in to our belief bag. Now, most religions define themselves by what they believe or by what's inside the bag. Christians, for instance, believe in Jesus. Muslims in Allah and the Prophet Muhammad. Buddhists believe in the Four Noble Truths. But Unitarian Universalists don't have just one set of beliefs. What makes us different is the way that we Unitarian Universalists carry our beliefs, because there are different ways of holding your belief bag. For example, some people hold their bag like this. They clutch it close and they make sure the top is tightly sealed because they don't want their beliefs exposed to any new ideas that could threaten what's inside. They've got their world wrapped up in a nice, tidy package, and because their bag is all closed up, we call these people closed-minded people. On the other hand, some people are just the opposite. They don't pay much attention at all to what goes into their bag. One idea is as good as another, and if other folks believe it, or if they read it on the internet, or heard it on talk radio, then it's got to be true. Because they carry their bag in such a sloppy manner, we call these people sloppy thinkers. And then there are people who carry their bags like a club. They use it to hit other people. That what's inside their bag may sound nice and sweet. For instance, I believe in peace and kindness and the golden rule, but they use their bag like a weapon. You don't believe in peace? Why, you nasty person. Shame on you. But none of those is the Unitarian Universalist way. Instead, we carry our bags like this. We carry them open at the top so new ideas and experiences can get inside. The old beliefs can be tossed aside if needed. We carry our bags in front of us so that we can see and examine what goes in, to be sure it makes sense and fits with others and other things we know. And also so that we can see what our neighbors think and share our thoughts with others. Above all, we never use our beliefs to beat up or bully other people. That's why what it means to be Unitarian Universalist, the next time somebody asks you, what do people in your church believe? You tell them, Unitarian Universalists, it is less important what you believe than how you hold your beliefs. It's how you acquire them, how you share them, and above all, what you do with them that counts.
The morning hangs a signal upon the mountain crest, while all the sleeping valleys in silent darkness rest. From peak to peak it flashes, it laughs along the sky, till glory of the sunlight on all the land shall lie. Above the generations, the lonely prophets rise, while truth flares as the day star within their glowing eyes. And other eyes beholding are kindled from the flame, and dawn becomes the morning when prophets love proclaim.
Number 40.
The soul has lifted moments above the drift of days, when life's great meaning breaketh in sunrise on our ways. Behold the radiant token of faith above all fear. Night shall release its splendor, what morning shall appear? That morning shall appear. The morning hangs a signal.
Our first reading this morning is an excerpt from Humanist Voices in Unitarian Universalism called The Deep Unity of Human Family. It's by Kendall L.R. Gibbons and William R. Murray. Humanism is primarily about who we are connected to, what we think about each other, and how we work for justice in the world. No matter what else they believe, humanists insist on the inherent worth of every person. According to humanists, we are all part of one family, human family, and are connected to the rest of the natural world, part of a cosmic story far bigger than we can imagine. Humanists believe that we're in that story together, and that our work is to write our chapter with as much love and dignity as we can. In the humanist view, change will happen in our world because we make it happen, and the change will take all of us. I'm no longer interested in perpetuating the old paradigm of the humanist-theist divide. I never have liked polarities and dualities. They lead to all kinds of misconceptions, and this one is no exception. The humanists are old and stuffy and intellectual, one stereotype goes. They prefer debates to emotion, and they don't like to sing. Really, they're practically secularists, and who even knows why they go to church? The theists are leading us down a path towards evangelical Christianity, says another stereotype. And all they care about is sneaking prayer into every service. If they have their way, soon there won't be any difference between us and the Presbyterians. Polarities breed stereotypes, and stereotypes are always oversimplified, often wrong, and usually pretty boring. On a practical level, the stereotypes, and more importantly, the whole idea of humanist-theist polarity, keeps UUs squabbling with each other rather than focusing on the real needs and challenges of the world. It holds us back, ironically, from living out the full promise of humanism to honor both the real and important diversity and the deep unity of the human family, and to create a world where the whole family flourishes. What if, instead of imagining humanism as one end of a seesaw, we saw it as possibility that is open to all, regardless of their metaphysical beliefs? That's the lived reality of deed before creed, the organizing idea behind Unitarianism. In 1866, James Freeman Clarke, Unitarian minister and early organizer of the American Unitarian Association, wrote, "We think it possible to have a church and even a denomination organized not on creed, but on the purpose of working together. Suppose that the condition of membership was desire and intention of getting good and doing good," unquote. Join now for our time of practices with words, stillness, and music. If you'll get comfortable, and our words are from Sophia Lyon Faw's, "It Matters What We Believe." Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged. Other beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days and fears of unknown calamities. Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness. Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction. Other beliefs are like gateways, open wide vistas for exploration. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness. Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world. Other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life. Please join me in a time of silence to contemplate these words. Our second reading this morning is What is Your Personal Credo by Carol Wimmer. What is your personal credo? Have you thought about creating a statement that defines who you are and what you believe and how you see yourself interacting with the world? Many of us have been given such statements based on religious identity. Yet, when people choose to shed the traditional creeds attached to denominational doctrine or the beliefs associated with non-denominational movements, one's tribal identity and credo is also shed. This leaves a void that many of us want to fill for our own sake. It prompts the need to develop a personal credo, tailor-made to fit us as individuals. I know I experienced the void as I shed all the labels I had carried for most of my life. In thinking through I had become as I matured in my faith, I needed to develop a credo. I needed to examine why I do what I do. What really motivates me? What do I believe about God, humanity, the world in which I live? If I no longer choose to recite a creed handed down to me through tradition, then what creed best fits my soul? The next song is in the Teal 1058, The Ars of Religion.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine grows everywhere. Its temple, all space, its shrine, a good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine grows everywhere. Its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual works of love.
Hopefully that was enough time you learned it by the fifth verse. Our discourses this morning are done by 5 different people. First, we will have a credo from Doug Strong, then Jana Norris, then Dan Althoff, Elbert Hill, and then myself.
The character spirit of my family was grounded in being fair, nice, helpful, respectful, especially to our elders, and to be honest. Summers found us at our grandparents' summer place on Wellesley Island in the St. Lawrence River. Winters we skied and skated, enjoyed ice sailing, and played speed chess at night by the fire. It was just the way we were as a family. Happy kid, growing and looking back, not such a bad foundation for a life. It was only years later that I realized we never spoke about church, religion, beliefs. We celebrated Christmas, sure. The tree, the creche, the carols, the presents, the special food. Ditto for Easter, Independence Day, Thanksgiving, and more importantly, our birthdays. I guess I must have known Jesus was the Son of God, but frankly, so what? Zero interest in quandaries of deep faith. This idyllic, tranquil life persisted for over a decade. Being the youngest of 5 siblings, I had no clue that disaster was about to burst the family apart. And it hit me hard. My old man split. All my siblings had become adults, married, and produced their own families. Now there were but two of us left, my mom and me. We settled into a new home. It turned out to be only 2 blocks from our church, First Unitarian Society, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, who was a member. The high school group, Liberal Religious Youth, became the place where my personhood took root. I was 14. High school was academically fine, a semi-private institution within the University of Wisconsin system, but it was for me 4 years of complete agony. I was the brunt of torment, teasing, and bullying. It intimidated me a lot, but I found my salvation at church. LRY, Liberal Religious Youth, gave acceptance and a place to be oneself. I don't think I'd be here today if it was not for that group. And surprisingly, that it was 20 years later that I would be the district and then the national advisor to the group. And I also served on the UA commission that morphed LRY, which was an independent part of the church, into Young Religious Unitarian Universalist, a very clever name when you say just the letters. Why are you you? When it came time to graduate from the University of Wisconsin, I did not have a clue what I was going to do. Not a clue at all. However, Edward Kellogg Strong of Stanford University gave me the answer. Not a relative, but he developed this interest inventory. Have any of you taken it through your years? The inventory isn't a test. It's a series of a whole lot of questions, and you have to answer which of the 3 answers fits you best. Would you rather dig ditches, read Shakespeare, or pick cherries? There's your answer. Which one? Me? Read Shakespeare. With all those questions, patterns developed, and after hundreds of them, the end result is you get a list of those life careers that would give you pleasure or pain. From the top all the way to the bottom, there were maybe 10 or 12 general areas. At the very bottom, it said for me, if I ever considered doing a work that would perpetually make me miserable, do it by becoming an accountant. Don't have a career that does anything to do with negotiating numbers. I burst out laughing. But the truth of it is, I got a checking account when I was 13 by my grandmother so I could do arithmetic. And now I will confess I have not once balanced that checkbook in all of these years. I trust the bank. Helping others was what it came up with at the top. Maybe not being the executive of a big corporation, but a nonprofit sector where helping people seemed to be high on their ranks. That clicked for me. And it turns out a week after graduating, I was hired as an assistant field director with the American Red Cross. Spent 10 years with them. And I learned early that I don't think I was the most liberal member of the national staff, but I was very close. I remember at one meeting where we were all around the big conference table, and we were talking about the wonderful things we did as an organization, and the director of nursing said that our chapter in Des Moines, Iowa, was teaching the Red Cross class the ABCs of parenthood to unwed women. There was this little audible gasp, and people kind of nodded, well, you know, this makes some sense. I sat there shaking my head, and the big wig said, hey, Strong, you, of all people, why would you object to something like this? Sir, I reminded him, or said to him, if we were really on the cutting edge as an organization, we would have taught those young girls how not to get pregnant. Well, the decade ended. So did I, with Red Cross. So I decided to take some time off, and I went to Switzerland to ski. I'd done it before, and I was going down the Jungfrau mountain outside of Wengen. And you can imagine it was very cold. The sun was out, the snow was glistening, and I got a revelation. Maybe I should be a minister. Red Cross helped life, but it was not sufficient. Becoming a minister surprised me, but I went back to grad school, and that's exactly what happened. I'm comfortable with my life. My core values had matured into a quiet, pensive existence. I have never read the whole Bible, probably never will. I don't feel a need to believe in a Christian or Muslim or Jewish or Eastern religions with what special requirements or expectations, belief one has to have. I'm worthy of being alive. When I die, I'm just going to be dead. This is logical to me. I do, however, bask and savor my deep religious faith within Unitarian Universalism. True, it took me nearly a third of my life to realize I have been blessed with several generations of worthy relatives, including 2 previous UU ministers, who found the Universalist Church of America and the American Unitarian Association decades before I was even born. Now I am well sconced in the 5th quarter of my life. If I regret anything, it is that I did not find love sooner. Jana and I shared 23 years together. And you know, it's strange. I don't really miss or long for him. Rather, I long for what our two guys being together brought in a profound death of who we each became as persons growing from the other. I was ordained 45 years ago, and about 5 years ago, I, who save all papers, ran across Mr. Strong's interest inventory results. I was moved to tears when I realized that I took that test in about 1968. There, at the very top of the list, was the word minister. I was stunned when I saw it. I had totally forgotten or rejected even the concept when I first had seen the results. There's an ancient parable from the Quran written across the back wall of the meeting room at the Unitarian Society in Madison, which reads, if you have a loaf of bread, take it, break it in 2, and give half for some flowers of the narcissus. For while the bread feeds the body indeed, 'tis the flowers that feed the soul. Thank you.
Okay, I don't project as well as Doug did. Can you hear me? I grew up in a Christian family, like most of us here in North Texas did, and I tried to make it fit. I tried so hard to find myself in this relationship with God, and it just did not work. I moved to Southern California in the mid-'80s, and I was exposed to feminist witchcraft. And this was a glorious time to be pagan in Southern California. Most of the authors of current books lived either in the San Diego area or they lived in the Bay Area and came down and taught classes and workshops. And there were metaphysical bookstores, lectures, seminars, public rituals, finding a coven and studying with them for years, learning about herbs and spells and tarot cards and having jewelry and robes and all of the paraphernalia. And it was so much fun, and it filled what I needed at that time. And even then, my takeaway was that deities are facets of the duality in nature, birth and death, day and night, and all the gradations in between. And that either the earth and all that dwell upon her are sacred, or nothing is. There is no transcendent God up there who decides what's sacred. The archetypes of God and goddess are here within us, within the earth. It's all sacred. We're all sacred. And it's so easy to forget that. I suffered from depression one year, and I was seeing a therapist who asked if I had any religious beliefs. And I thought for a minute, and I said, I forgot that I'm sacred, which pretty much helped me find my way out of the depression. I believe that we each have a path to walk through life. And this path forms a spiral so that we learn many of the lessons, not so much over and over again, but that there are themes that we keep finding in our lives, but each time we see them at a deeper level, we're able to understand more. We build upon what we've learned before and all the things in between. I've aged a lot since then, and I've grown up some. But I'm back at this part of the spiral where I believe that everything is sacred. I believe that we have different ways of feeling and expressing the forces of life. And these are my truths, ever deeper and ever richer. But at the same time, I say this is a belief. I also say, or it's a metaphor, because that works just as well for me. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dan Althoff. I've been a member of the congregation for over 20 years. For some inexplicable reason, I've always been fascinated by elaborate rules and codes. As a child, I researched and learned the subtle differences among the ranks and titles of the British nobility. For example, a non-royal duke is called Your Grace, but a baronet, the lowest ranked hereditary noble, is called Sir, which is the same as a knight, but a knight is non-hereditary. For me, the same fascination extends to the code of canon law in the Roman Catholic Church, which is the religious tradition I grew up in. For example, if a priest says a mass outside his own diocese without the permission of the local bishop, then that mass is sacramentally valid, but it is not licit. But leaving aside my fascination for minutiae and my devotion to nitpicking, not everything is subtle or nuanced or slippery in life, and not even in the Catholic Church. In fact, every parish Sunday Mass includes a recitation of the Nicene Creed, which is a fairly blunt, straightforward dogmatic statement of belief that all Catholics must subscribe to in order to be considered fully Catholic. The Nicene Creed begins with the fateful words, "I believe," followed by a list of many items, including an affirmation of Jesus Christ as Lord and God, his sacrificial death, and his resurrection. Also tucked in there is an assertion that Jesus will come again to judge the living and the dead, with a shout out to the Holy Spirit and the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. It's a lot. For people like me who left one religious tradition to become Unitarian Universalists, it's so easy to say what I do not believe, which is pretty much everything I was taught to believe during my childhood. Unitarian Universalism certainly allows for not believing. And as a non-credo religious tradition, it's not in our current DNA to have a statement of belief, much less a formal creed. We can point to the historic 7 principles, to the 6 sources, both of which are reproduced in the opening pages of the Gray Hymnal, and very recently, the 6 shared values centering around love, adopted just this year. They don't have the same purpose as a creed for us, and although it may happen somewhere, sometime, I am not aware of any UU congregation that communally recites any of these as part of their regular service. But today is about personal statements, not corporate declarations. So when I was asked to share my own credo, my own I believe, it was a humbling challenge, an exercise I haven't engaged in for quite a while. And it was kind of tough, but here we are, and here I go. I really do believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every human. I know that's the first of our 7 principles, but it's something I also claim as my own true belief. I believe that what we do or do not do has consequences for other humans and for the planet. Even the solitary individual living off-grid on a remote mountain can affect the environment for good or for ill, and that bears upon all of us, if only in a small way. To paraphrase the English poet John Donne, no human is an island. I believe that we are born from mystery, and to mystery we return. Although we can identify the biological processes that lead to birth and to death, I believe our existence on the planet is something more than merely material. I don't pretend to name what comes before or what comes after our life, only that I believe that there is something more, something beyond our brief luminous interval on Earth. As a fan of minutiae and differences among Christian denominations, I'm reminded that Eastern Orthodox Christians use the term mystery rather than sacrament. Sacrament as a mystery, mystery as a sacrament. Somehow that seems appropriate here. It's the closest I come to an overt sense of the holy. I believe that it's good to allow oneself to take an occasional break from the hard and nonstop work of living. We do not always have to take up the sacred yoke grimly, day after day. We have holidays in the calendar for a reason. These holidays can be a respite from physical labor, emotional labor, mental labor, or spiritual labor. It's okay just to be, you know? We don't have constantly to do. How long a holiday to take? I believe that you'll know when it's time and when it's time to get back to work. And finally, I believe that it's wise to borrow wisdom to use where and when you find it. For me, that's one of the greatest reasons for being a Unitarian Universalist. Nothing I have said here today is especially original. Fortunately, though, originality isn't a requirement for holding belief you see as true. And I want to thank you for letting me share this with you today.
I'm just going to move this for her.
I began my journey, religious journey, as a Southern Baptist. On Sundays, I typically attended Sunday school and worship in the morning, then training union and worship again in the evening. Wednesday, of course, was prayer meeting. I was baptized early when I was 6 years old. One New Year's Eve when I was a junior in high school, I attended a midnight service where I felt called to the ministry. That became my last plan at that point, and after high school, I attended Carson Newman College, a Baptist school in East Tennessee, with the goal of becoming a Baptist preacher. I can't point to one moment of revelation that happened that year, but by the end of my freshman year, I was no longer particularly interested in the ministry. I was still interested in theology, however, and during the spring break of my junior year, I went to visit a friend at Colgate Rochester Divinity School in Rochester, New York. That's an American Baptist seminary, by the way, which is a good bit different from Southern. My interest was more in just studying theology than going into the ministry, however. Over the next few months, I decided I would rather go to graduate school to study English. That had been my major in undergraduate school due to my love of literature, and that I thought that becoming a college teacher of English would be a better fit for me. During my last year and a half at Carson Newman, I met and fell in love with Marion, who was a teacher of journalism and English at Carson Newman. We married during my senior year there. After my graduation, we moved to Memphis, where I earned a master's in English at what was then Memphis State, which is now the University of Tennessee at Memphis. When I finished my master's in English, we both accepted jobs teaching at Southeastern State College in Durant, which later became Southeastern Oklahoma State University. Though we had both grown up in Baptist church, we decided fairly early in our marriage that we no longer agreed with some of the teachings of the Baptist church. However, while in Memphis, we did attend University Baptist Church, which then had a pastor who was a real thinker. His sermons didn't follow the tried and true cliche-filled path that one hears in too many Baptist churches. But we always left worship feeling that our minds had been engaged. Unfortunately, when we moved to Oklahoma, we didn't find a similar church experience. We tried attending First Baptist Church in Durant, but it's back to cliches again. So for so many years, we do not attend church at all. By the way, sometime after moving from Memphis, we heard that the pastor that we had liked at that church had left the ministry and was running a pet store. So he was following me, maybe. Through a fellow teacher at SOSU who had been a UU for many years, Robert Murray, which a few of you probably remember. I'm not sure anybody here was, except Doug and Marion. Anyway,
through Robin, Marion learned about the beginnings of UU Fellowship that was meeting on Wednesday evenings at Grand Avenue Methodist Church in Sherman. Later, Dan Althoff, who had just come to the SOSU faculty, started going with Marion at church. And I heard them talk about it. I decided to join them in attending. I liked the fact that there was no particular dogma that one had to accept or adhere to, and I liked many of the people I met at this fledgling church. Me and I became charter members when Rev UU Church formally organized. I've never been an atheist, in that I believe there might be something beyond our physical world, but I am an agnostic. I do not believe in any particular faith tradition, but I am open to the idea that there may be something beyond this life. I do like many of the teachings of the person of Jesus as presented in the Gospels. If organized Christianity spent more time on what he said about the 2 commandments, love God and love your neighbor as yourself, as well as the tenets in the Beatitudes, instead of insisting on focusing on the Old Testament's 10 commandments, I might feel more at home in some modern churches. If we all believed that and treated each other as we want to be treated, this would be a much better world.
You're not going to hear all my history. Mine's short and sweet. As we've heard, a credo is more than a set of beliefs. It's a foundation, a compass that guides our choices, actions, and relationships. Today, I'd like to share mine with you, a framework of principles that shapes how I try to move through the world. At the heart of my credo is uncertainty. Specifically, the acknowledgement that I cannot know with certainty whether a God-like being exists. If there is a God, I doubt it has a gender or intervenes in our everyday details of our lives. For me, this perspective opens the door to living a life grounded not in divine control, but in human responsibility. This belief aligns with my identity as a humanist. I believe deeply in the inherent worth of every person and in our shared duty to care for one another and all living beings. Relationships are also central to my credo. Family, friends, and chosen communities. These connections require work, commitment, and intentionality, but they are where I find joy, support, and meaning. I choose to believe that justice, though its arc is slow, ultimately bends towards equity. This belief calls me to hope and action. It reminds me to strive for fairness and to stay optimistic, even when challenges seem insurmountable. For me, an ideal government is a socialist democratic republic where care extends to all, not just the wealthy or the powerful. Love is a cornerstone of my credo. I believe love answers life's deepest questions, and kindness is its natural outcome. When we approach the world with love, we create room for understanding, empathy, and connection. Kindness, in turn, becomes love made visible. Freedom and individuality are also key principles. I believe everyone has the right to live authentically, so long as doing so does not harm others. However, freedom is balanced by collective responsibility, our obligation to respect and care for one another. Finally, I believe in the transformative, healing power of laughter. Laughter isn't just about humor. It's a life force, a way to cope with uncertainty, to find joy in the present, and to lighten the burdens we carry. In a world that sometimes feels heavy and dark, laughter is the gift we give ourselves and one another. These beliefs, human worth, justice, love, kindness, freedom, and laughter, shape how I live and interact with the world. My credo isn't static. It grows as I do, adapting to new challenges and insights. But it remains a reflection of my core values and a guide for how I strive to show up in the world each day. So I leave you with a question. What's your credo? What principles guide your life? It's a question worth pondering, because knowing what you stand for is the first step towards living with intention. As we continue with Credo Sundays in the future, I encourage you to reflect on your own beliefs. If you'd like to share your credo next time, please let a worship team member know. And if no one volunteers, well, you just might get an invitation to share it. It could be the start of a meaningful journey. Thank you for letting me share myself with you. Our offering words this morning are written by Victoria Weinstein, the offering as a pastoral ministry. Every week in our church, we take up an offering. It's good to remind ourselves from time to time that the offering is symbolic as well as practical. We know that it is through pledges that we build our budget and fund our yearly programs and ministries of worship and religious education. We pay our staff and professional religious leaders, and we finance the comfort and beauty of our buildings. And we know that we could easily submit those pledge checks to the church at any convenient time. But we pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression of thanks for the blessing of abundance, to visibly bring in the harvest at its most cherished hour of our week. Our offering says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. The offering will now be given and received in the spirit of grateful fellowship. The bowl awaits, or you may donate online.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again.
The next hymn is 1057 out of the Teal hymn.
1057.
Moonlight, starlight, guide
I invite you to rise in body or spirit for the closing benediction, for the closing thought, benediction, and extinguishing the chalice. Our closing thought is Cherish Your Doubts by Robert T. Weston. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the attendant of truth. Doubt is the key to the door of knowledge. It is the servant of discovery. A belief which may not be questioned binds us to error, for there is incompleteness and imperfection in every belief. Doubt is the touchstone of truth. It is an acid which eats away the faults. Let no one fear the truth, that doubt may consume it, for doubt is a testing of belief. The truth stands boldly and unafraid. It is not shaken by the testing. For truth, if it be truth, arises from each testing stronger and more secure. Those that would silence doubt are filled with fear. Their houses are built on shifting sands. But those who fear not doubt and know its use are founded on the rock. They shall walk in the light of growing knowledge. The work of their hands shall endure. Therefore, let us not fear doubt, but let us rejoice in its help. It is to be the wise as a staff to the blind. Doubt is the attendant of truth. William E. Gardner wrote our benediction, we all have two religions. We all have two religions. The religion we talk about and the religion we live. It is our task to make the difference between the two as small as possible. Go and explore. Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish these flames, but not the light of joy, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace, return in love.